Kong Skull Island is the second feature film to enter, I believe it's Warner Brothers' MonsterVerse. It's directed by Jordan Vogt-Roberts and stars Tom Hiddleston, Brie Larson, John C. Reilly, Samuel L. Jackson, and John Goodman. First of all, I'd like to apologize that this review is so late. I did see this movie a couple weeks ago. I've had a lot going on. I'm trying to play catch up a little bit. I've only seen 2 movies this month. You'll probably see these reviews kind of go up back to back. I've yet to see Beauty and the Beast. I gotta see that and do a review for it, so I apologize. Things have been moving kind of slow, but I have been very busy. It's been a pretty packed month. So, I was pretty damn excited to see this movie. I thought it looked great. It was very high up on my anticipated list for this year. And it was the same thing with Godzilla in 2014, how extremely excited I was for that. And these movies both have very similar problems. This movie was disappointing to me. I was very disappointed by this movie walking out. That's not to say this is a terrible movie. It's not. It's fine, but the flaws are so glaring. Let me talk about what I liked first. Just simply put, it's the same thing with Godzilla. There is some the 2014 version, that is. There is some badass action and some badass shots in this movie. If you thought the action and the shots looked really cool in the trailer, you're probably going to think they look really great in this movie. The action in this movie, say what you will about what makes a movie really good, you can take all that shit out of it and sit there and watch King Kong fucking destroy people for 2 hours and probably enjoy yourself. I enjoyed those scenes, whether they were ridiculous or not, which they kind of were. It's pretty solid. The cinematography in this movie really complements the action and the thrills that you kind of get from the action sequences in this movie. But with that said, I almost had a problem with this movie with there being too much action. And I think that lends itself to one of the main problems with this movie is how quickly this film moves. This thing is going rapid fire to the point where when you reach the final battle, you feel like you're 40 minutes into this movie. It is one of the most rushed movies I have ever seen. It just goes, it zips, and I think a lot of that is due to the fact that there's almost too much action in this movie. Action sequences are just one after the other, after the other, after the other. They are constant. They don't stop. And yeah, they're cool and they're fun to watch, but you have to take a second every now and then to stop, take a breather, and give us some real movie shit, because that's sort of what we came in for. The other major problem I had with this movie is how utterly cliche and predictable it is. This is a very template-based, been there, done that kind of movie. I have seen what happens in this movie so many other times before, whether it's a post-apocalyptic movie, or if it's actually a monster movie, or if it's just an action movie. The shit that happens in this movie feels so unoriginal that you start to be able to map out what's probably going to happen through the rest of the movie. And I was kind of able to do that. I was sort of able to sit there about a quarter way into this movie and go, alright, that's probably going to happen towards the end, that's probably going to happen at this point. And as those things started to actually happen, I got more and more annoyed and infuriated with what was actually happening in this movie. But the main problem that I have with this movie that is inescapable for me are the characters. Oh my god, I can't even call them characters. There is no introduction for, like, just look at the 4 main cast members. You have Tom Hiddleston, Brie Larson, John Goodman, and Samuel L. Jackson. For whatever reason, John Goodman gets like 10 minutes of introduction. He gets a ridiculous amount of introduction time, so at least you kind of know a little bit about his character. You get one scene, I think, for the other 3. And Brie Larson's scene, I wouldn't even call a scene. It just shows, okay, she's a journalist, or she's a photographer. Alright, moving on. There are no characters in this movie. They never take the time to develop them. Or not even develop them, even set them up. There are no characters in this movie. These are actors that were just simply placed in this movie. These are pawns so that we can just see King Kong kick some ass. That's the only reason they're in this movie. They're not characters. They're pawns. And it is infuriating watching them on the screen because I don't care about any of them, with the exception of John C. Reilly. John C. Reilly is by far the best part of this movie, and even he starts out a little shaky. His performance at the beginning, I shouldn't say his performance, it was his writing was like, okay, he's going to be this annoying character that we're going to have to bear through the whole movie. It catches itself. He becomes funnier and more interesting as time goes on. He was the only character that I was sitting there going, if something happens to this guy, I'll actually care. If any of the other characters had, like, I was sitting there thinking, if anything happens to any of these other characters, I'm not going to care. And I wouldn't have. And it just, it's so, just, you can't have a movie with characters that you don't care about, especially in monster movie. Even in Godzilla, I would have cared if something happened to Ken Watanabe. I would have cared if something happened to Bryan Cranston. Maybe I would have cared if something happened to Elizabeth Olsen. Say what you will about Godzilla, I kind of enjoy it more than this movie. They have very similar problems. There's even some VFX problems in this movie, and there is no fucking excuse for that. Nothing on King Kong. King Kong looks phenomenal. I more so noticed it with some visual effects shots that, or not, of course, visual effects, scenery shots that I was like, that's clearly CGI. But I think it's funny too. The ending shot of this movie perfectly sums up how lazy this film was. And just the fact that it was a marketing tactic, probably just to set up this universe to make money, and just so they could be like, oh, there's King Kong killing people, we're not going to set up characters, we're not going to have a genuine script, we'll just do this. The ending shot of this movie, it's so lazy, it's so annoying, it's very similar to the ending of Godzilla, it's even worse in my opinion. It just sums up the laziness and the lack of caring that anybody working on this movie really had for it. But all that aside, your average moviegoer is really going to like this movie. They're going to enjoy it. It's just how it works. If you are someone that just likes watching movies for the hell of it, you usually don't walk out of movies with nitpicky problems or problems at all. You just like going to the movies. You're probably going to like this thing. It's action-packed. It's got moments of comedy. It's relatively interesting for an average moviegoer. You're probably going to like it. But if you are a nitpicker and an avid filmgoer like myself, you are probably going to notice these problems, and it's probably going to aggravate you. Would I recommend this movie? I'd recommend it to average moviegoers. It's enjoyable, to say the least, but if you're looking for a really good movie out of this, I wouldn't see it. I like to give DC a lot of shit for not getting stuff right, because they haven't yet. Let's talk about monster movies. What was the last great, mainstream monster movie we saw? I'm sure there's one I'm forgetting about. I'm fine with Peter Jackson's King Kong. I don't love it. I don't hate it. It's fine. The new Godzilla was bleh. Remember 1998's Godzilla? That was cool. It's just, there's gotta be a way to make these good. I think this movie really did have a lot of potential that was kind of wasted simply for the fact to just set up the Kong versus Godzilla movie. Because at the end of the day, that's all these movies are doing. Setting up for that fucking face-off in 3 years that we'll eventually see. And, I'm not gonna lie, I want to see it. I'm excited to see it. But it doesn't change the fact that this movie's not very good. So, if you're an average moviegoer, I say screw it. Check it out. It's fun. But a lot of people are going to notice the glaring flaws that this movie has. So, what did you think? Have you seen Kong Skull Island? Have you not seen Kong Skull Island? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you all next time.